So Donald Trump has managed to fire a federal prosecutor within 58 minutes of them taking office. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, my name is Dr. Ian Phillips, and we have some crazy news for you here today. This is one of the most authoritarian things that you can do is just take people out of power who do not fit your interest. And even worse than that, you can do so solely for the reason that you did not appoint them yourself. And this is what Donald Trump's doing here today. So spoiler alert, this guy doesn't actually even, there's no evidence that this guy even disagreed with Trump, this prosecutor. Trump fired him anyways, right? Just because he was not the one who appointed him. And so we're going to talk all about the story here today. A guy by the name of Roger Rogoff. Why was he fired? What's going on with that? How this fits Trump's firing history. And then just, little talking points in there, right? So with that said, guys, let's get to it. So Roger Rogoff here was appointed U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington, the chief federal prosecutor for the Seattle region, and then he was fired by President Trump less than an hour after being sworn in. 17 active and senior federal judges appointed by 5 different presidents unanimously had selected Rogoff after a formal application and bipartisan review process. Rogoff then went to the U.S. Attorney's office to meet the official who had been running it, but while waiting in the lobby, he received an email titled, quote, "A message from the president," end quote, telling him that he had been removed. He's now consulting attorneys about potentially challenging the firing. Because obviously, who the hell would not if you just had that position ripped from your hands? I know I would be pissed off and I'd be challenging it every step along the way. Now, the U.S. Attorney here is an extremely powerful position. Rogoff would have served as the chief federal law enforcement officer for Western Washington, supervising federal criminal prosecutions and representing the United States in civil litigation. And this potentially includes things like terrorism, organized crime, public corruption, immigration offenses, financial fraud, civil rights violations, and cases involving federal agencies. Rogoff was not an inexperienced, political selection either. I mean, this is a guy who spent 20 years as a state prosecutor, 6 years as a federal prosecutor. He served as the King County Superior Court judge, and he directed Washington's Office of Independent Investigations. He also worked for Microsoft and taught at the University of Washington School of Law. So this guy's a pretty experienced individual. So the question begs, why was he fired? And the answer, as I told you in the spoiler here, is not because he disagreed with Trump or he was some political enemy. There's actually no evidence of any allegations that Rogoff, committed anything like from misconduct or, mishandled some case related to Trump or personally attacked Trump or mishandled any case at all. This guy is an upstanding citizen as far as I know. Maybe he's not. I don't even know his record. But it doesn't matter. He's not criticizing Trump here. So the question begs, why did the administration fire him? And the administration came out clear. They said, the objection was not, that he may be a good guy or not. It's the objection is to who appointed him, right? Trump did not have a hand in appointing this guy himself. And so therefore, Trump said, screw that, you're fired, right? It's his classic line, you're fired, which fits a common theme with respects to Trump. Now, is all this legal? Who knows? It's generally disputed here, but it fits a common theme. So let's talk about the legality of this first, and we'll talk about the common theme. I mean, Trump's fired countless people in the same manner, all the way dating back to his first term. So look, the legal issue is generally disputed. All right. So Section 546D says that after an attorney general's temporary appointment expires, the district court may appoint someone to serve until the vacancy is filled. But Section 541C separately says that each U.S. attorney is subject to removal by the president. The administration argues that this language plainly includes court-appointed prosecutors, whereas Rogoff's potential argument is that allowing the president to fire a judicial appointee instantly without nominating and securing a Senate confirmation for replacement effectively nullifies Congress's court appointment system. A recent law review analysis here concluded that the president's claimed authority over these particular court appointees rests on uncertain legal ground, although it questioned whether courts possess an effective remedy once the firing occurs. So, we're in a very weird, precarious situation here. Is this legal? Is this not legal? But at the end of the day, this is a very authoritarian action that Trump is not unfamiliar with. So let's take a look at his history here. So Sally Yates, fired in 2017 after ordering Justice Department attorneys not to defend Trump's original travel restrictions. FBI Director James Comey was fired after the FBI was investigating Russian interference and connections to Trump's campaign. Election Security Chief Chris Krebs was fired after his agency contradicted Trump's claims and said that the 2020 election was secure. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Geoffrey Berman, the closest first-term comparison, was also court appointed and resisted Attorney General William Barr's announcement that he was, quote, stepping down. And Trump ultimately removed him while Berman's office was pursuing sensitive investigations involving Trump associates. So, the strongest framing, therefore, guys, is not therefore that Trump fired a prosecutor because Rogoff was investigating him. Right? There's no evidence of this, right? Because I know that will be the first conspiracy theory that comes to mind. The actual framing here is that Trump fired a highly experienced guy solely because the Trump administration did not select him. That is essentially what we are talking about here today, and it begs the question, should a president of the United States be allowed to do this? And I would argue no, because, in this situation here, one, far away from Trump, two, this is a guy who's is a prosecutor. What the hell does that have to do with Donald Trump, right? It's like it was like the old Kanye line, right? It's like, he's like, I like the Gaga music, but what the hell does she know about cameras, right? And so, I mean, there's an argument to be made that maybe in some cases it should be allowed to. But under these grounds here, we're going to say, okay, well, look, they appointed him. Why should Trump be allowed to just remove that person right away? And yes, there's going to be some conflict of interest there, in my opinion. In lots of situations, or at least there could be the potential for conflict of interest. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. I mean, we're talking about a guy now who's essentially monetizing presidential communications. It's absolutely insane. But yet, this is the country that we're living in here. Talking about a guy who starts multiple wars and gets away with it countlessly. That's the world that we're living in nowadays. So, to just remove a prosecutor, that it doesn't sound like the biggest of a deal, but it kind of is, right? Again, this is like how authoritarianism starts, right? Everybody always likes to use the comparison back into the, the 1930s, 1940s, say, oh, he's like Hitler or whatever, right? It's like, okay, well, I've refrained, and you can look at my record, I've refrained from calling him that for years, but now he's like Hitler in 1930s, who's just raiding beer halls, doesn't have any real power, but he's just clawing at it constantly. And I think now we're trying to see this setup here to where maybe he can try to get himself into a third term. He's trying to insulate himself away from anybody who could potentially go against him, which is why he's upset. He wants to have that person in his back pocket. So he's going to say, fuck that. Like, dude, of course I'm going to fire you because I want the person in my back pocket if they are going to get this position. And that's essentially what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very horrible thing that we have going on, but that's the world that we live in nowadays. And it's only going to continue to get worse from here as far as I am concerned. So, curious to see what you guys think about this. Should Trump be allowed to fire a prosecutor within 58 minutes? A federal prosecutor, for that matter, here, who's court appointed? Yes or no? Obviously, I have my opinion. I'm sure you guys have yours. But at the end of the day here, be thinking about, like, dude, should this be within the scope of the job? I don't know. But I suppose we will... We'll find out, as time comes, if this is challenged in court. So with that said, guys, if you did enjoy the video here today, try to get me to 600 subscribers. My name is Dr. Ian Phillips. You can follow me on social media at Ian Phillips USA, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.